Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the session. Hope all of you guys are back after the break. Just give me a confirmation in the chat. Is everyone back? Good to proceed? Yes, okay. I'm getting some thumbs up from people, so I'm assuming that you guys are back. Okay. So, guys, there were 3 points in today's agenda. Point one was to show you how to interact with a Gen AI model. And before the lunch break, we have done that. Okay, we have interacted with Gen AI model. Now, point 2 and point 3 of today's agenda are left. Let's talk about them. Let's start with point 2. In this point, we are going to talk about how to pass your own data to the GenAI model. Okay. So let's suppose I have my own data. Let's assume that I run a travel agency called Margis Travel and I have some brochures related to the travel agency. Okay. By the way, these brochures I have obtained from Microsoft's GitHub repository. Okay. So let's suppose I run a travel agency called Margis Travel and you can see I have brochures for different cities. Okay. So it says that in New York City, where should you stay? What is New York City famous for? So it says it's famous for so and so thing. You can see a description is given. Also, the recommended hotels in New York City are provided. So what are the recommended hotels? It says if you want to stay in New York, Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, Park Hotel, these are the recommended hotels. But by default, if I just go ahead and go to my GenAI model and I ask it where to stay in New York, let's see what answer it gives me. I will just ask it where to stay in New York. Okay. So you will see that in my data, the answer is Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, Park Hotel. But by default, the GenAI model will not give me that answer. It will not say Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, Park Hotel. In fact, it gives its own answer based on the data that it had trained on. Okay. So what if I want to make the GenAI model answer something based on my own data? Okay, so in that case, you will have to pass your own data to the GenAI model. Let me show you how to do that. So in order to pass your own data, you can see here there is an option to add your data. So we'll try to add our own data. Our data is in the form of files. So we are going to say that we are going to upload files. All right. Now remember that whenever I will upload files to my GenAI model, that GenAI model, what it will do is it will divide the files. Okay, into small parts, or I should say not the model, the application which contains the GenAI model. Currently this application that you see, okay, this one that you see on your screen, I'll pass data to it. Internally what it will do is it will go ahead and break it down into small parts known as chunks. Okay, so my data that I'll give will be broken down into small chunks. Now it depends on us how many chunks we want to create. Okay, and you will see that option being shown to us going forward. But remember that whenever you pass your data is broken down into chunks. Okay. Now, whenever a input is received by the GenAI model, the GenAI model looks for the answer of that input in the data that you have submitted. Now your data is divided into chunks. So there are two scenarios in which your GenAI model can proceed. Okay, scenario one is it goes through all the chunks of data to give you the answer. Okay, scenario one is it goes through all the chunks of data to give you the answer. Scenario two is it only goes through the relevant chunks of data to give you the answer. Okay, it only goes through the relevant chunks of data to give you the answer. I will repeat my statements, guys. So guys, what I'm saying is, let's suppose you want to pass your own data to the GenAI model. Now, when you pass your own data, your data is divided into chunks. Okay, it's divided into small parts known as chunks. Now, whenever you will pass an input to your GenAI model, the GenAI model will look for the answer of that input in the data that you have passed. But how do you want the GenAI model to proceed? Do you want the GenAI model to go through all the chunks of data and then give you the answer? Or do you want the GenAI model to only go through the relevant chunks of data and give you the answer? In which scenario will the GenAI model give the answer in a more faster manner? Can anyone tell me? Which scenario will be better, guys? Scenario 1 or scenario 2? Scenario 1 or scenario 2? Aditya says scenario 2 will be better, right? Even Shubham says the same, that scenario 2 is better. Yogesh says kindly recap. I've joined late. Yogesh, all I can do is tell you that just before the break, I showed people how to interact with a GenAI model. There are two approaches that I showed to them. One is the without code approach, other is the with code approach. Okay. Now, how to interact for that, you'll have to see the recording as we spent around 3 hours of time just in that. Okay. But just as a recap, just remember that I've only shown people how to interact with the GenAI model. So how to pass requests to the GenAI model so that you get response, and how to engineer the response of the model based on the input that you are providing. So we learned about prompt engineering as well. Okay, so basically just interacting with the GenAI model is all I have covered, Yogesh. I won't be able to cover everything that I've done. It will take a lot of time. So if somebody has joined late, request them to go through recordings that will be provided later. Anyways, coming back to our main point, which is we are going to pass our own data to the GenAI model. So guys, as I mentioned, whatever data we pass, that data will be divided into chunks. Now, whenever the GenAI model receives an input, the GenAI model tries to generate a response for that input by going through the data, but the data is divided into chunks. So do we want our GenAI model to go through all the chunks of data to generate a response, or do we want our GenAI model to only go through relevant chunks of data? You will say, Smith, scenario 2 will be better, wherein our GenAI model only goes through relevant chunks of data to generate a response. Yes, scenario 2 is of course better. But you might have a doubt over here. You might ask me that, Smith, how does the model know which chunks are relevant? Okay. So let's understand that. In order to search which chunks are relevant, there are two type of searches that you can use. First is called keyword search. Second is semantic search. So these are the two searches that you can do to find out which chunk of data is relevant. Okay, keyword search and semantic search. Okay. What is keyword search? Keyword search is like doing a normal control F. So let's suppose in your input, you have passed this token saying where, you have passed this token stay, you have passed this token New York. So it will just see that, okay, these tokens are present in which chunks of data. So a token New York is present in which chunk, the other tokens are present in which chunk. Okay, depending on that, it will find out that, okay, which chunks of data are relevant for your input. Okay, so that is keyword search, okay, which is a very simple type of search. The second type of search is called semantic search. Semantic search is a more advanced type of search. In semantic search, what happens is it also understands the context in which you have written the token. So for example, if you go to google.com and if you ask it revenue of Apple, it understands that here you are talking about Apple fruit. But when you go to google.com and when you ask it revenue of Apple, sorry, here in the previous request, it understood that you're talking about Apple company. Whereas if you pass a request saying calories of Apple, here it will understand that you're talking about Apple fruit, right? So in the previous request, the same token Apple was used, but google.com understood that you're talking about Apple company. Whereas in the second request, same token Apple was used, but google.com understood that you are talking about Apple fruit. Same token, but the token was treated differently. Okay, how? So basically here google.com uses something called semantic search. In semantic search, it also understands the context in which the token is written. So what happens is, remember in a GenAI model, every token will be assigned a vector of scores, or on a simple words, an array of scores. So for example, if I have an array like this, having these values, okay, by the way, these values, get decided once the model is trained. How that model is trained, you will not understand unless and until you know deep learning. So for now, just remember that for every token, an array of score is assigned. So for example, here, if I have an array having 3 values, this will be called a three-dimensional array or a three-dimensional vector. Okay. On the other hand, in reality, a GenAI model would have depending upon how that GenAI model is made. Okay, GenAI model would have more than 1,000 dimensions. Okay, that means for every token there are more than 1,000 values assigned. So for example, here if we have a token like this, wherein there are 3 values assigned into array, we'll say that will be a three-dimensional vector or a three-dimensional array. Okay, if there are 5 tokens, we'll say it will be a five-dimensional vector, five-dimensional array. If there are more than 1,000 values, we'll say it's a 1,000-dimensional vector, 1,000-dimensional array, and so on. Okay, in reality, a token in GenAI model has more than 1,000 dimensions. Okay, but here let's assume for a token you have 3 dimensions. Okay, that means for every token you have it has 3 values. Okay, all right. So the idea is that similar tokens will have similar array of values. So for example, if you have a token like Apple, it has a value like this. If you have a token like fruit, it would have similar array of values. Okay, the values will be very similar, close to each other. So that's how it figures out that, okay, this token is related to which other token. Okay, so for example, here, when we talk about calories, the uh, array of scores assigned to this token calories will be similar to array of scores assigned to a token called fruit or food. Okay, that's how it understands that, okay, if calories is mentioned, that means here you're talking about food. Okay. Whereas revenue is mentioned, that means, okay, you're talking about company. Okay. So without going into the in-depth working, because for that you need to know the details of deep learning. Okay. And even in one day, it's not possible to show you that. Even in 8 hours, 10 hours, you will need to spend more number of hours. For that, I can give you the resources from where you can learn it. You can either use my videos or some other videos available online as well. Anyways, but without going into the working, because the working you will not understand in limited amount of time, just remember that in order to find which chunk of data is relevant, there are two type of searches that I can do, either keyword search or semantic search. Keyword search is like doing a normal control F, whereas semantic search is a more better type of search, wherein for every token it remembers the context of the token. Okay, so in semantic search, it understands the context in which the token is written, whereas keyword search does not do that. Keyword search is like doing a normal control F. Okay, so here what I want to do is I want to add my own data. Okay, so I'm going to say that I have my data in the form of files. I'm going to add my own data. Remember, the OpenAI resource does not have capacity to store big data files. So what it will do, it will hand over these data files to a resource of separate service called storage account service. I repeat myself. Here we are interacting with OpenAI resource, right? In the morning, we created a resource of OpenAI service. Remember, this resource of OpenAI service doesn't have capacity to store big files. So what will the OpenAI resource will do? It will hand over these files to a resource of separate service called storage account service. Okay. What it will do, it will hand over these files to a resource of separate service called storage account service. So what it is asking is that, okay, the OpenAI resource cannot handle these files. So it will hand over these files to a resource of separate service called storage account service. So let's create a resource of that storage account service. So we'll try to create a resource of that service. Let's do that. Let's try to create a resource of that service. Let's understand. So what I'm doing is I just clicked on this create button to create a resource of OpenAI service. Soon I'll be redirected to a form that I have to fill. So let's fill in the details of that form. Okay, the first field in the form is asking me to select subscription. The next field in the form is asking me to assign the resource to some or the other resource group. After that, I'm being asked to assign a name to my storage account resource. So let me give it a name. I'll call it webinar storage res. After that, I'm being asked to select the region for my resource. So you can choose any region of your choice. I will choose West US region. Just remember that the region that you choose should be closer to your user. So if your user is in United States, choose a region closer to United States for better latency. Okay. Then it is asking me for performance tier. There are two tiers shown over here, standard and premium. With standard tier, the benefit is that you get low cost. Okay, cost is low, but the latency is high. Okay, that means the time taken to perform read and write operations on the files will be high. Whereas in premium tier, you get comparatively higher cost but lower latency. Lower latency means the time taken to perform read and write operations on the files will be low. Okay, fine. So that was about performance tier. So depending upon the tier you want, you can choose accordingly. After that, the last option shown to you is redundancy. Okay, why was this option of redundancy introduced? Let's suppose you have created a resource of storage account service, and in that resource you are storing multiple files. By the way, those who don't know about storage account service, remember storage account service is something similar to Google Drive. Just like in Google Drive, you can store any type of files. Similarly, in your storage account service, you can store any type of files. In Amazon, in AWS, you have an alternative to this called S3. Okay, S3 service. In Azure, it's called storage account service. Okay, those who don't know storage account service, as I mentioned, it's something similar to Google Drive. Just like in Google Drive, you can store any type of files. Even in your storage account service, you can store any type of files. Okay, so let's suppose you stored some files, and now what happened was, let's suppose you created a resource of storage account service in West US region, and let's suppose the server where you deployed that resource is not accessible, maybe due to a natural calamity or a man-made calamity. Okay, due to some issue, let's suppose that server is inaccessible. Because of that, you will not be able to access the resource of storage account service. And along with that, if you have stored some files in that resource, that those files will also be inaccessible to you. That is a big issue, right? If especially if those files are related to an important project, it will be a big issue for you. So to solve that, the option of redundancy was introduced. The idea is that we will create copy of the resource so that if for some reason the main resource is inaccessible, at least you can use the copy of the resource till that point. Okay, let's see how it works. So I'll go ahead and explain to you how the concept of redundancy works. Okay, so there are two options shown to me over here. One is locally redundant storage and the other is geo redundant storage. Let me explain these options over here. What do they mean? In locally redundant storage, what happens is if your main resource is stored in West US region, then three copies will be made. Copy 1, copy 2, copy 3. So three copies will be made, but they will be made in the same local region as the main resource. So if your main resource is stored in West US region, even your copy resources will be stored in West US. So the advantage that, okay, you are creating a copy, so fine. It will be less costly because these copies you are creating in the same region as the main resource. Okay, and remember what happens is whatever work you do in the main resource will be automatically done behind the scenes in the copy resources as well. Okay, Azure will do that automatically. Okay, so in locally redundant storage, your copies are created in the same local region as the main resource. So here the advantage is cost. It is very less costly. Okay, the cost is very less, but the disadvantage is it is not that reliable. What if all the servers of West US get destroyed due to a natural calamity or man-made calamity? With that, your main resource will go, and along with that, your copy resources will also go. Okay. So the advantage of local redundant storage is that it is very cheap, but the disadvantage is that it is not that reliable. On the other hand, second option is shown to us over here called geo-redundant storage. Let's understand with geo-redundant storage what happens. With geo-redundant storage, if your main resource is created in West US, then your copy will be stored in a different geolocation. So if your main resource is in West US, your copy might be stored somewhere in central India. So here the advantage is it is comparatively more reliable as compared to locally redundant storage. Geo redundant storage is more reliable. Why? Because now even if all the servers of West US get destroyed due to a natural calamity or man-made calamity, fine, your main resource will not be accessible, but at least your copy of the resource will be accessible because it was stored in a different geolocation altogether. So the advantage is that it is more reliable, but the disadvantage is that it is very costly. Okay, comparatively costly. Fine. So to avoid cost, I will select locally redundant storage. Okay. To avoid cost, we'll select locally redundant storage over here. Fine. Now what will we do is we'll just go ahead and click on review plus create button. With this, a validation will run in the backend just to check whether it can give me the things that I'm asking for. If the validation is successful, the create button will be enabled. You can see it's enabled. And now I'll just go ahead and click on it so that a resource of storage account service can get created. Okay. Why was this required, guys? Because I'm going to pass my own data to my OpenAI resource, but the OpenAI resource doesn't have capacity to store those big data files. So it is going to hand over those data files to resource of storage account service. So over here we created a resource of storage account service. You can see the creation is in progress. Once it's fully created, then we can use it for a task. Okay. Till then, I will just try to answer the doubts in the chat. Anand says, do you conduct a longer course covering? Yes, Anand, we do have courses. Uh, you can reach out to the team on social media through the social media accounts that are available, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, and learn more. Although I would suggest that the same resources are available for free as well online. So if you want to learn through those, you can learn through those as well. But if you feel that okay, you're not able to learn through using some free resources online, then only uh, I would recommend to pay. Otherwise, I would feel that first try to learn through free resources available online. Many resources are available on YouTube and other blogs. But if you feel it's difficult, then only I would say you can reach out to us. And yes, we do conduct courses on that. Okay, Harshil says which resources will be redundant. So Harshil, I guess you are talking about your storage account resource. So buddy, the entire storage account resource will be and copy of entire storage account resource will be created. Okay. And if you are asking in Azure, just like we can create copies of storage account resource, can we create copies of other resources as well? Yes, any resources which store big data, like for example, here in Azure, you have a service called Azure Cosmos DB service, wherein you work with Cosmos DB database. So you can even create a um, copy of that as well. Okay, so basically in Azure, whichever services that are dealing with storage of data, redundancy option will be available in those services. Okay, so whether it's storage account service, Cosmos DB service, a redundancy option will be available there. Aditya says, I don't have Azure. Are there any other alternative? See, if you are wanting to interact with a GenAI model like GPT 3.5, GPT 4, okay, now you can interact with a GenAI model on Azure. The same GenAI model is also available on ChatGPT portal. So whether you interact with a GenAI model on Azure or through ChatGPT portal doesn't matter. Okay, but anyways, even in ChatGPT portal, I remember 1.5 years back, I tried to interact with a GenAI model on ChatGPT portal through code. Just like I interacted with a GenAI model on Azure portal through code. Here you can see I've done that before the lunch break. So just like we interacted with a GenAI model on Azure portal through code, I also interacted with a GenAI model on ChatGPT portal through code. But at that time, um, it had mentioned that you can only call the model 5 times for free. If you want to call the model for the sixth time, you will have to pay a cost. Okay. So even if you choose any other portal apart from Azure, even in that portal, at some point, you will have to pay some cost. Okay. Especially if you want to work with the with code approach. So there will be a cost associated. If you want to use it for free, then there will be a certain limit. Okay, 1.5 years back, that limit was 5 requests for free. I don't know right now, maybe they would have increased it to 10 or 20, but beyond a point, you will have to pay some cost. Okay. Harshal says the resource of OpenAI service, uh, can we create copies of it for redundancy? By default, it doesn't do that over here. Okay. By default, Azure only creates copies of those resources which store data. So for example, storage account service, Cosmos DB service. Only in those services, when you create a resource of those services, redundancy option is available. In OpenAI, it's not available by default. Okay, it's not available. If you want to create copies, you will have to do it manually. Okay, but Azure does not give that option for you. Azure only gives redundancy option in services that are storage related services. Okay, and it takes care of everything. So it will create copies for you. Whatever work you are doing in the main resource, it will do it in the copy resources as well. So all of the work it will do automatically. Azure will do automatically. But this automatic work is only available in storage related services, not in other services. So to answer your question, nobody in OpenAI service, that option is not available. Okay, so when we'll create a resource of OpenAI service, that redundancy option you will not see. Anyways, so we are going to pass our own data to the OpenAI resource, but the OpenAI resource doesn't have capacity to store big data. So it is going to hand over that data to the resource of storage account service. We have created that resource. Let's select it. Okay. Then we'll turn on cross resource communication. Let's turn on that. And now let's proceed. Remember, whatever data will give, that data will be broken down into chunks. And do we want that the OpenAI model should go through all the chunks of data to give us a response? Or do we want that the OpenAI model only goes through relevant chunks of data? Obviously, we want our OpenAI model to only go through relevant chunks of data. But how will the model know that which chunk is relevant? For that, it will have to do a search, either keyword search or semantic search. Okay, either keyword search or semantic search. So how to do that search? In order to do that search, you will need help of resource of search service. There is a search service which will help you to do either keyword search or semantic search. So let's create a resource of search service. We'll do that. We'll create a resource of search service. Let's proceed and we'll see what to do next. So what I did, I just clicked on the create button here to create a resource of search service. Fine, let's go ahead. Let's create a resource. I'll give that resource a name. I'll call it webinar search resource. That's it. Let me go ahead and let me create the resource of search service. It will take a minute. We'll have to wait till then. Okay. So to recap what we are doing, remember guys, I asked my GenAI model to uh, give me recommendations for staying in New York, but it gave me some recommendations based on its own training data. I want that the GenAI model should give me recommendations based on my data. What does my data suggest? My data suggests these hotels called Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, Park Hotel. So I want that the GenAI model should give these recommendations. Okay, so for that, I'm trying to pass my own data to the GenAI model. Remember, whatever data I pass internally, it will be broken down into chunks. Okay. And we want our model to not go through all the chunks of data to generate a response. We want our model to go through only relevant chunks of data. Okay. So for searching which chunk is relevant, we can do two type of searches, either keyword search or semantic search. For that, we need help of search service. So here we created a resource of search service. Now, what this resource of search service will do is whatever data you give it, it will organize it using index. What is the purpose of index? Index helps you to find information faster. For example, during our school time, if you remember, you used to write down your notes in a notebook, right? And at the front of the notebook, there used to be an index page. What was the purpose of that index? The purpose of that index was to help you find information faster. So if your teacher came to you and asked you to open chapter number 10, you looked at the index and saw that, okay, chapter number 10 comes at so and so page. So you used to directly open that page. So purpose of index was to help you find information faster. Similarly, here the resource of search service will organize data using indexes so that information can be obtained faster. So you can give any name to that index. I'll call it test index. Fine. Let me click on next button. Now it's asking that you are supposed to upload your files. Okay, you are supposed to upload your data. So let's upload that data. We'll go ahead and upload it. Let's upload it. I have some data with me. Let me upload that data. Here we go. And you can see I'm trying to upload. Now remember, whatever data we pass, internally that data will be broken down into chunks. So what chunk size do you want? Do you want 500 tokens in one chunk? Do you want 1000 tokens in one chunk? You can go ahead and specify that. Okay. And depending upon your preference, the chunk size will get selected. Fine. So data will be broken down into chunks. But in order to generate a response, do we want our GenAI model to go through all chunks of data, or do we want our GenAI model to only go through relevant chunks? Of course, we want our GenAI model to only go through relevant chunks. In order to search which chunk is relevant, there are two types of searches. You can either use keyword search or semantic search. I will choose semantic search as it is a more better type of search. Okay, let me click on next button. Now it will ask me that the data that you're uploading, if anybody wants to connect to that data, how they will connect. I'll say using key-based authentication, they can go ahead and connect to that data that I'm uploading. Okay, fine. Let me click on next. With this, I'll be asked to review the details entered by me. If I'm fine with the details, I'll just go ahead and save it, save my data. You can see saving of data is in progress. We'll have to wait for a minute and soon you will see that our entire data will be saved. So going forward, when we'll ask it where to stay in New York, it will give me answer based on my own data. What does my data suggest? My data suggests that in order to stay in New York, these are the three recommended hotels: Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, and Park Hotel. Okay. So hopefully my GenAI model should give me that answer. Earlier, you can see when I asked it where to stay in New York, it gave me some random answer based on the training data that it had trained on. But now I want the Gen AI model to give me answer based on my own data. Let's see if it does that. I'll just wait for my data to get fully saved. Let's wait for it to get fully saved. And then I will pass a request to the Gen AI model. Now let me ask it where to stay in New York. And you will see that it will answer based on my own data. My own data suggests that in order to stay in New York, the recommended hotels are Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, and Park Hotel. And you can see, you will observe that the Gen AI model will also give you similar answer. It will also say Manhattan Hotel, Grand Central Hotel, and Park Hotel. Okay, exactly as expected over here. So guys, here what happened? We passed our data. The data was divided into chunks. Then based on our input, the model figured out which is the relevant chunk of data. And from those relevant chunks of data, it generated a response. So generating a response by retrieving the relevant chunks of data. Okay. Retrieving the relevant chunks of data and generating a response is known as retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval augmented generation. Retrieving the relevant chunks of data and then generating a response is known as retrieval augmented generation. And guys, it's not like the GenAI model will just copy paste the answer from my data. No. Okay. It will use some slight change of words. It will not just copy paste. Okay. So for example, over here in my data, it says Manhattan Hotel. With Manhattan Hotel, you will get to stay in the heart of New York City. Whereas in my answer, instead of stay in the heart, it says located in the heart. Okay. So it's not like the GenAI model is just copy pasting the answer. No. Okay. Based on my data, it is trying to generate its own sentences. Okay. So retrieving the relevant chunks of data and then generating the response is known as retrieval augmented generation. Okay. So guys, this is the concept of RAG, retrieval augmented generation, through which you can pass your own data to the GenAI model. Harshil has a doubt over here. Yes, Harshil. Do you want me to unmute your mic or Harshil? I'll allow you to unmute mic if you have any doubt.
Yeah, so you had mentioned a couple of points. One is, can you repeat again about the size, chunk size?
Sorry, can you repeat about?
Chunk size, chunking. You mentioned about the four size 256, 512, 1024. So how does actually it works? How does it impact? So is it good to have, for example, large size or small size?
Again, see, what I would suggest is, okay, first let's understand what is chunk size. So when we say chunk size, that means how many tokens do we want in that chunk? Okay, for example, again, what is a token? I have explained what is a token. Can you tell me, buddy, what is a token as per your own understanding?
Like size of a word or number of characters in the word. It's
So token can be thought of as a word or subword, right? So for example, if you have a word like apple, it will be treated as a single token. But if you have a word like blueberries, it would be treated as two tokens, wherein blue would be one token and berries would be another token. So it depends on how that Gen AI model is made and how it treats a word, whether it treats it as a single token or as a collection of tokens. Okay. So for example, maybe the Gen AI model treats this word the as a single token, the word city as a single token, and so on. Okay. So what will happen is, let's suppose I want I want each chunk to have maximum four tokens. So can I say here this will be chunk one, then after that this will be chunk two, and so on. Okay, this will lead to many chunks. Okay, again, irrespective of the number of chunks that you have. Okay, irrespective of the number of chunks that you have, the response generation of the model will not change. Okay, now let's understand in reality what happens. So let's understand the behind the scenes code. So this application to which we have gone ahead and submitted our data, what it would do. Okay. So by default behind the scenes, let me go ahead and let me show that to you. I'll just open that. I'll just open one of the files which I used in my lectures in my batch. I did conduct a LLM lecture for Walmart. Huh, this is the one. And okay, here is the code for RAG that I used in my batch. So what I did was I divided my data into chunks. Then behind the scenes, it will first check that, okay, get the top two similar chunks, get the top three similar chunks, and so on. Okay, what it will do? It will say get top two similar chunks or get top three similar chunks, get top four similar chunks. Now, in case of Azure, Azure handles that automatically. Okay, you don't have to pass a number. So for example, when it is trying to search that based on our input, which are the relevant chunks? Okay, based on our input, which are the relevant chunks? So maybe the first chunk is relevant, second chunk is relevant, third chunk is relevant. But let's suppose in the behind the scenes code, it says only get the top two chunks. So only the top two chunks, which are the most relevant to the input, will be looked at, and based on those top two chunks, response will get generated. Okay. Now, in case of Azure, you don't have to worry about this number. Azure will do that automatically for you. Okay. Talking about chunk size. Okay. You have again some options given. You can either have 500 chunks in a token or 1,000
one zero.
chunks in a token,
Yeah,
and so on.
right.
Okay. Irrespective of which chunk size you use, your your response generation is not going to change in Azure. But outside of Azure, let's suppose you implement RAG, then what will happen is there you will have to pass that, okay, give me the fine, you have divided your data into chunks. Now give me the top two chunks, and based on the top two chunks, the model should generate a response. Okay. So let's suppose you had divided your data into multiple chunks. Okay. Let's suppose 10 chunks. Let's suppose like this, you have divided your data into 10 chunks. Now let's suppose out of 10, first 8 chunks are relevant. But in your code, you have mentioned only generate response based on top two chunks, top two relevant chunks. So it will only generate response based on that. So in this scenario, if you try to implement drag outside of Azure, what would happen? If you chose a a chunk size which is very less, that could cause a problem for you. Okay. So again, just like with respect to parameters, neither a parameter value very low is good, neither a parameter value very high is good. Similarly, with respect to chunk size also. In case of Azure, irrespective of the chunk size you choose, your response generation is not going to change because Azure handles that for you. That okay, based on your input, how many relevant chunks to get. But if you try to do this outside of Azure, you will have to explicitly specify that, okay, out of all these chunks, give me the top two chunks or top three chunks or top four chunks. At that time, okay, your chunk size would get affected. So depending on your data, you have to select the chunk size. Okay. In Azure, you don't have to worry about chunk size because again, this number is taken care of by Azure itself. Understood, Harshil? So with respect to Azure, you
Then
select any chunk
what are
size,
the
it won't matter.
purpose they have given these four options, 254,
Can you
56,
repeat,
and
Harshil?
102? Then if that is the case, where in Azure we don't need to worry about, but still we could see that there were four options, right? Which you selected 102 for as a standard.
Hmm.
So then what is I mean, why it is required to be having that?
No, no. See, you need to divide your data into chunks, into
Correct.
small parts. That
Okay.
customization is given to you.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay. What I'm saying is that customization is given to you. Again, over here, we would not want our data to be spread across, multiple chunks because again, what will happen? If our data is divided into multiple chunks, as I mentioned, you will suffer from that problem, right? Wherein let's suppose 8 chunks were relevant, but our code is only looking at the top two relevant chunks.
Right. Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even in
Right.
Azure, what you
Mhm.
would do is currently we are passing how many files? 6 total files, correct? Right?
Yeah.
How
Mhm.
many files we passed? We passed a total of 6 files. So we would look at the content of those files. Okay, what we would do, we would look at the content of those files. And here, can I say in one file, I don't think more than 500 tokens will be present,
Right. Yeah.
right? So what I would feel that, okay, I have 6 files, in each file, 500 tokens are present. Okay, so I feel 500 tokens is a good way to divide the data. Okay, so that
Okay.
in one chunk, you will have one file data, in second chunk, you will have second file data and so on.
Right.
And
Correct.
again,
That's
so
correct.
one, it depends on the data. Second, it depends upon your input that you are passing. For example, in my case, I am going to pass input wherein I will say that, okay, give me the recommended hotels in New York. Okay. So for that, hardly it will go through one or two chunks, right? For this over here, hardly it will go through one or two chunks. So for example, either I choose a token size of 500 tokens in a chunk. Can I say this entire chunk, this entire file will be in one chunk, correct?
Correct.
Or
Yes.
maybe what could happen is, let's suppose data from year to year is in one chunk, but this could be in another chunk. Possible, right? So
Yeah.
by
That's correct.
default, the value is by default, how many chunks are looked at, how many relevant chunks are looked at. What is the default value? Have a
And
look.
yeah, two. Okay.
2. So if
Yeah.
let's suppose you have divided your data into multiple chunks, let's suppose if this file is divided data into 5 chunks, okay, 5 chunks. And I would say that, okay, only give me a response based on top two chunks. Then can I say some of the important information could be lost because important information was also present in the other 3 chunks. But I said only give me important information from the top two relevant chunks.
Yeah. That's correct.
So again here, two things depend. First is your data. How is your data? Okay, and the type of input that you are passing. Based on that, you have to select your chunk size.
Can be
So
changed later, right? I can change this later, right? Or no?
correct, correct. See, once your data is uploaded, then that's it. What you will have to do is, yes, you can edit it. Okay, but then entire process will have to be done again by the model then. Okay, it will redo the entire process again. But yes, to answer your doubt, yes, you can change it. Okay. So you tell me, buddy Harshil, would I be fine with this data divided into with this data divided into 5 chunks? And
So
if I'm
five should
going
be
to,
good.
huh?
Five should be good, right? To give you, because in fourth and fifth you are getting that
Okay.
data, right?
Let's
Yeah.
suppose I divide it into chunks like this. This is chunk one, chunk two, chunk three, chunk four, chunk five. Okay. Let's suppose something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to pass an input to the model saying where to stay in New York. By default, the model searches for how many relevant chunks?
Two.
2.
Yeah.
So it will either choose either 3, 4 or 4, 5
Yeah.
or 3,
Okay.
5, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
can I
Yeah.
say
So it's
some
good.
important information would be lost then?
Yeah. You lose. Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Correct. So setting a
Yeah.
very lower chunk size value would also not be good. So it depends on your data is the right answer. Okay, how to set chunk size? It depends on your data.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Based on that, buddy, you have to select the chunk size.
Thank you.
Any other doubt, Harshil? Yes, welcome.
Yeah. So a second thing was I was asking about research and semantic difference, because I think you said that, but I'm a little bit lost now again.
Huh. So you tell me whether you want me to cover. I will first teach you the overview. Then you tell me whether you want me to go into depth or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's understand the overview first. So as you rightly know, Harshil, that whatever data we pass to the OpenAI model, that data is divided into chunks. Now, in
Correct.
order to generate a response, do we want our model to go through all the chunks of data, or do we want our model to go through only relevant chunks?
It should be relevant. Yeah. Correct.
Perfect. So how would the model know which chunk is relevant? As you rightly have mentioned earlier, there are two type of searches it can perform. Either keyword search or semantic search.
Correct.
Okay. Or semantic search. Now let's suppose, Harshil, you have two documents with you. Let's assume that you have two documents with you. One document is about apple fruit. Another document is about Apple company. Okay.
Mm.
Another document is about Apple company. In both the documents, you are talking about the same token Apple, but in one you are talking about Apple fruit. Another you are talking about Apple company.
Right.
Okay. So let's suppose you pass a request saying that give me calories of Apple. Okay. So now what it will do is it will try to do a search, keyword search. For example, in keyword search, what happens? It tries to do a normal control F. That okay, you have mentioned the token Apple. This token Apple is present where by doing control F, it will find in document one or document two. Like that, the token off is present in which document? Like that, the token calories is present in which document? So keyword search is like doing a normal control F. Okay.
Mm.
But when you do
Mm.
control F, does it remember the context of the token?
No, it doesn't understand. Correct.
Correct, right? So when we do
Yeah.
normal control F, we say Apple. It's not necessary that it will look for Apple fruit only or Apple company only. It will just search that, okay, the token Apple is present in which document? Whether it's present as a in the context of Apple fruit or Apple company, it does not look into that. So can I say keyword search is a very simple type of search? It's like doing a simple control F.
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whereas, okay, so for example, it would say that, okay, calories is mentioned in this document. So document one, off is mentioned. Okay, in none of the documents. Apple is mentioned in both documents, document one as well as document two. Okay. Whereas here the relevant chunk was only document one, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But with keyword search, it thought that both the documents are relevant. Getting
Correct.
it? So here,
Mhm.
keyword search is a very simple type of search, buddy. So in order to avoid that, we use something called semantic search, which is what google.com uses. So if you go to google.com, I mean, if you ask it revenue of Apple, it will understand that, okay, you're talking about Apple company. And if you go to google.com and if you ask it calories of Apple, it understands that, okay, you're talking about Apple fruit. Same token Apple was used in both the request,
Yeah.
but by using keyword search is understood the context in which you ask the token. Okay. So in semantic
Mhm.
search, what happens is to every token, you assign a array of scores, or in other words, a vector of scores. So for example, let's suppose you have a token apple. Okay, or you have a token calories. To that you have assigned array of scores. By the way, these array of scores are assigned by the Gen AI model during training the model. How it gets
Okay.
assigned, it does it using deep learning concepts. Okay, for which you will have to spend around 18-20 hours to understand. But for now, just understand that it for every token, the Gen AI model assigns a array of scores. Array of scores is also known as vector of scores. So currently here, how many values I have assigned in this vector? How many values, buddy?
Five, six, no, sorry,
No, no,
three, three,
here three, right?
three, three,
So this will be
three,
called
three.
a three-dimensional vector.
Correct. Yeah.
In reality, Harshil, in a Gen AI model, every token has more than 1,000 dimensional vector.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard that. So I mean, depends on the Gen AI model. Some Gen AI models have vectors of around 1,500 dimensions. Some have a vector of around 1,300 dimensions, and so on. Okay.
Correct.
But the idea is that similar tokens will have similar array of scores. So for example, here, can you see that the score for the token calories and the score for the token food is almost the same,
Correct.
right? That's how it, so
Mhm.
internally it does that computation, and that's how it finds out that, okay, if calories is mentioned, calories is most similar to which other token? Food token. So that's how it
Hmm.
understands that, okay, if calories is mentioned, then here the user is talking about food.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here I took an example of a three-dimensional vector. In reality, you have vector having more than 1,000 dimensions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And values are assigned to it by the Gen AI model during training the model. Okay. But for short, just remember, Harshil, that semantic search is a more better type of search because it understands the context of the token also.
Yeah. Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Fine.
Mm.
So here, buddy, I had to choose one out of those options, either my keyword search or semantic search. So you will see that whenever I will go ahead and upload my data, for example, if I upload my data here, it will say that, okay, in how many chunks you want to divide your data. And apart from mentioning how many chunks you want to divide your data, okay, it will also tell you that how should the model look for the relevant chunk, either keyword search or semantic search. Understood
Yeah.
this, buddy?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, welcome. So guys, then next, I guess, let me see the chat. Uh, Nagaraj says, is it possible to store all the responses, both input and output in the Azure account? Hi, you can store it. Okay. So you have to take help of storage service for that. For that, you will have to write your own code. Okay. Accordingly, you can store it. Okay. So to answer your question, yes, it will add more complexity to your code because then based on every input and output, you're storing it separately. Okay. But fine, you can do it if you want to. Okay. That's not an issue. But remember, all that previous input and okay, yes. So are you thinking that that previous input and output you will store and then combine it with your current input and then generate a response? Are you saying that previous input and output, do you want to treat them as examples? Is that your use case? Okay, or even if that is not your use case, to answer your question, yes, you can do it. Okay. Although, uh, for which use case you are doing, you can let me know. But irrespective of the use case, yes, to answer your doubt, yes, you can do it. Shubham says behind the scenes, this semantic search is done using NLP. Uh, See, I mean, what is NLP first? Let's understand. So when you give input, which is in the form of text, okay, your input is mentioned as features. Okay, your input is treated as feature for the model, whereas the output is treated as target for the model. So when your input is in the form of a continuous text, okay, that means that you are talking about NLP field. So yes, this comes under NLP field. This entire work that we have done today, you can say that it comes under NLP field. So if your input is in the form of text, there are two type of text, right? One is a text having a finite set of possibilities. Another is text having infinite set of possibilities. So people call finite type as discrete type, infinite type as continuous type. Okay. So let's suppose, Shubham, I am dealing with a column called gender. Now in gender so gender will have text values, but does it have finite set of possibilities or infinite, buddy? Finite or infinite? Gender? Finite, right? There will be two possibilities for gender, either male or female, right? As Shivam says, either male or female. So that will not come under NLP. Okay, so what comes under NLP? Let me mention it for your reference. So NLP is just a field wherein you are dealing with the input for the model, and that input is in the form of text. Which type of text? Having finite set of possibilities or infinite set of possibilities? Infinite set of possibilities. Let me mention that. So if your input to the model is in the form of text, and that to which type of text? You will say there are two type of possibilities. Some text values are finite uh, in possibilities, some text values are infinite in possibilities. So gender, it would come under finite type. So I would not call that NLP. Okay, that doesn't come under NLP. Whereas if I have a column like YouTube comments, so you tell me, Shubham, for YouTube comments, do I have finite set of possibilities or infinite set of possibilities? Infinite, right? So that would come under the concept of NLP. Okay, natural language processing. Natural language processing is just a field wherein you are passing an input to the model, wherein your text has infinite set of possibilities. So for example, uh, entire work we have done today, okay, comes under, you can call it that it comes under NLPS. Okay, fine. All right. So for example, when you pass this request saying what is the full form of HTTP, say we pass the text And it was not from the finite set of possibilities. We passed our text on our own. So yes, this comes under NLP. Okay, anyways. With this, I've explained the concept of RAG. Now, one more concept is left, guys. Okay. So RAG, I've explained that, okay, if you want to pass your own data to the Gen AI model, how to do it. Now, let's understand the third and last concept. Before that, I will give you a short break just so that you can refresh yourself, because the third concept is big and you will need fresh mind for that. Okay. So guys, up till now, did the second topic make sense? Umesh, you have a doubt? You have a doubt, Umesh? Okay, you are not on unmuted. Okay, I've allowed your mic now. Hmm.
Yes, sir. So,
Yes.
please, I just want to know, like, how did the vector search functions here, and did it actually index something, based on the content automatically? Does it do internally, and can that be configured as well?
Yes, Azure automatically does that. Okay, if
Mhm.
you remember, Azure did give you an option for indexing as well. Okay, you can see it did mention that, okay, what should be the index name. So Azure automatically handles that index for you, indexing task for you. Okay.
Okay.
Whereas to the
And
same Gen AI model, if you want to do the indexing on your own, you can do it,
Mhm.
but you will have to take help of the with code approach, buddy.
Okay.
Okay. So for example, over here in this coding file, which I used for one of my batches, where did that go? I'd open that up, right? This one. Here, I have handled the indexing on my own.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, to answer your doubt, yes, indexing was done, and in our scenario, Azure automatically handled it. But if you want to handle it, yes, using the with code approach, you can handle it on your own as well.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Yes. So for example, in our case, our vector data was stored by the search resource. But if you want to use some other vector database with code, you can go ahead and configure it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Jadhav says reference links for deep learning. Yes, I'll give it to you at the end. Though, if you want to learn about traditional AI, Gen AI, there is one popular YouTube channel called StatQuest with Josh Starmer. Even if you type StatQuest, it should come up in the YouTube search results. Okay. So, although I will give you a link also later on.
Sure. Thanks.
Yes. Amuda says, what is that? Amuda, it is a YouTube channel link. So Jadhav had asked for reference link for deep learning. So I mentioned that if you want to talk about traditional AI or Gen AI, remember traditional AI models are created using the machine learning approach, deep learning approach. If you want to work with traditional AI or Gen AI, irrespective of that, one good place to learn is this YouTube channel called StatQuest. Okay, there you will get to know the internal working, how traditional AI models work, how Gen AI models work. So that is the YouTube channel name that I'd given. StatQuest with Josh Starmer, I guess is the full name. But even if you type StatQuest in the search result, it should come up. Correct. Praful has mentioned the full name. Correct, that name. All right. So before proceeding to point three in today's agenda, point three is left, wherein we are going to integrate agents. Okay. Before doing that, I'll just give you a short tea break. And after that, we'll be back, guys. Okay. So you can refresh yourself, and with a fresh mind, you will be back. And then we'll be learning about the last point in today's agenda. So let's start the break. Till then, I'll just be on mute. We'll come back after 15 minutes. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the session. Hope all of you guys are back after the short break. Is everyone back? Just give me a confirmation. Good to proceed, guys. Yes, Umesh gives me a thumbs up. Okay, so I'm assuming all of you guys are back. Perfect. Fine. So now, Umesh, what we'll do is we will go ahead and we'll look into our third point of today's agenda, which is to integrate agents to our GenAI model. Why are agents required? Let's understand. So let's suppose I'm passing a request to my GenAI model. I'm asking the GenAI model to give me the stock price of Apple today. Okay. So you will observe that it would not be trained on that data, and because of which it is not able to give me that answer. Similarly, if I ask it to give me the weather today in Mumbai, it is not trained on that data, so it will not be able to give me that answer. And you can see it's not able to do that. And to solve this issue, we will take help of external tools that help the Gen AI model answer on data that it has not trained on. So for example, the model is not trained on real-time stock price data. So we'll use some external tool. Okay. We'll use external tool for that. Similarly, the model is not trained on weather data, latest weather data. So we'll take help of external tool. Okay. So if you want to make the Gen AI model answer on data that the model is not trained on, for example, real-time data, in that scenario, you will need to take help of external tool, and that external tool is called agent. So what is an agent? An agent is nothing but an external tool that helps you, that helps the Gen AI model to answer on data that is not trained on, for example, real-time data. So agents are especially used while working with real-time data. So what we'll do is we'll create an agent, okay, that will help our LLM model to give us information about real-time data. The same LLM model right now, which is not able to give information about on real-time data, that LLM model will be able to give information just in 30 minutes. I'll show you how. By the way, guys, this concept of agent is not specific to a Gen AI model of OpenAI. Any Gen AI model you take, whether it's a Gen AI model like Claude, which is created by Anthropic company, even the concept of agent will apply to that. So for example, if you just go ahead and ask the Gen AI model a question like what is the stock price of Apple today, it will not be able to give you that answer. Okay. But you can see that here there is an option to enable this agent called web search. With this agent, what will happen is now if you will pass the same exact input, if you now ask the stock price of Apple, it will be able to give you the stock price of Apple. And you can see it is able to give you that. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that this concept of agent is not specific to a Gen AI model made by OpenAI company. You take any Gen AI model, the concept of agent will apply to it. So what is an agent? An agent is an external tool that you integrate into your LLM so that, or it is an external tool that you integrate into your Gen AI model so that your Gen AI model can answer something that is not there in its training data. For example, real-time data. So the Gen AI model would not have answer on real-time data. So the agent will help the Gen AI model answer something on real-time data. Okay, fine. So before that, Praful has a doubt. Praful says just a general question in this AI era, lots of buzz coming up and organizations as well looking for new techs, how to scale up yourself doing the job. As job, don't give time for personal growth. Also to choose right pathway also difficult. Please suggest. Okay. So what I do, Praful, is see, first of all, I make a habit that whatever I am going to learn, I try to get all the certifications for it. So, for example, when I decided that, okay, I want to learn how to work with data in Azure. So I tried to get all the data related certifications. Now, how do I learn? Okay, what I do is I first go to the documentation page of that certification. Okay, I'm just giving you an example with certification. The same you can implement with any other topic. So I go to the documentation page. There might be some text-based tutorial always available on it. So for example, let's suppose there is a Azure certification called Data Fabric, also known as DP 600 Azure certification. Okay, so I'll just go into it. Okay, go through its text-based tutorials, but it's not necessary that I understand everything over here. So what I do, I always take help of any Gen AI model. Okay, wherever I'm stuck. So for example, here, when I'm going through this text-based tutorial, it talks about one lake. Now, this paragraph that it is mentioned, it's too very complicated for me to understand. So at that time, what I do is I try to go to the Gen AI model. I preferably use a Gen AI model called Grok. Okay, compared to any GPT model or any other model, I've found Grok to be more helpful for me to learn. Okay, so I use Grok for it. Okay, and I start asking it basic questions, and that's how I learn. So again, your process will not change. You will have to make sure that you get all the relevant certifications. And whenever you are stuck, like for example, whenever I am stuck, I take help of Grok for it. Okay. Earlier, I used to take help of other Gen AI model. Okay. Um, and before Gen AI, it would get very difficult for me to, learn things. So it would take a lot of time. But now with these Gen AI models, the technology that I would learn in maybe 2 months, 3 months, with this, I'm learning it in 2 weeks, max 3 weeks. Okay. So the time that I used to take in months has now been reduced to weeks. But again, your uh, process will not change. You will have to make sure that with new, you will have to do upskilling. You will have to go ahead and learn. So once you decide that, okay, here the scope, it seems that right now everybody is talking about data. So let me get all the data related certifications in Azure. After that, let me get all the data related certifications in AWS. Okay, so that should be your goal. And with these Gen AI models, your learning has become more simpler. Okay. So if you ask that, how do I learn? I take help of Grok to understand concepts. That's how I learn. Okay. Anyways, Anand says is the data source exclusive. That is the model should always use my data and the training data of the model. You mean in case of agent? Yes. So what in case of agent, what it will do, Anant, is if after integrating the agent, okay, if it finds answer of it in its own training data, then it will not take help of any agent. But if it feels that, okay, it is not able to find answer for the user's request in its own training data, at that time it will take help of the agents that we have integrated. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, but it's not necessary that, okay, once I integrate a agent, always it will take help of agent. No, if it is able to find answer for the user's input in its own training data, it will not even look at the agent. If that was your question, then that is how it works. Okay, fine. If there is any other doubt, please feel free to ask, guys. All right. So talking about agents, as I mentioned, what are agents? Agents are nothing but external tools that you integrate to your LLM. Okay. Now let me go ahead and let me show you how to create an agent. So for example, I'll create an agent that will get the latest stock price. I'll create an agent that will get the latest weather data. Let me go ahead and let me explain to you how you can do that. So first I'll open a coding tool. Since one student was asking about that coding tool, Google Colab, let me open that tool. Anyways, even if I work with Code tool doesn't work. Sorry, it doesn't matter whichever coding tool I used. And what I will do is my agent code I will test over there. Okay, just to prove to you that this concept of Gen AI you can use when any tool that supports writing code, any tool, any coding tool will work. Anyways, I want to create an agent. So one agent I will create that will give me the latest stock data. One agent I will create that will give me the latest weather data. For getting the latest stock data, there is a website called Alpha Vintage. that can help you to get the latest stock data. Okay. So it has some APIs available through which you can go ahead and get the latest stock data. Okay, fine. So what I will do is I will just go ahead and I will try to generate a free API key. Though I'm worried that the email ID that I will use, I would have already used that email ID once. So I guess this time it should give me some issue. But anyways, let me try. If it does not give me issue, well and good. If it gives me issue, I have solution for that as well. So no need to worry. Let's see if I'm able to generate a free API key. Okay, I'm able to generate. Fine. Perfect. So no issues. Now let's proceed. I'll create a new coding file called agent. Okay. Now there are different agentic AI libraries or agentic AI frameworks that you can use. So for example, one agent related library is called Llama Index. Another library is LangChain. What we'll do is let's start with Llama Index. Okay. Irrespective of the library you use, irrespective of the framework you use, the concept of agent will remain the same. Okay, fine. So let's try to create an agent over here. We'll try to do that. Anyways, so first what I will do is remember the code of my agent should be written inside of a Python function. Okay. What I'll do is I'll create that Python function over here. Simple Python function. I'll say this one gets the latest stock price. So based on the symbol that I pass for the company, okay, it should give me the latest stock price. So for example, a company like Apple has this symbol. Different companies have different symbols. So I'll say depending on the symbol that I pass, this function should be giving me the latest stock price. Okay, so first let's create a simple Python function. Okay, this is a simple Python function that I'm going to create. Okay, so first I'll mention the API key. I'll go ahead, copy the API key and paste it in my code. Then I will mention the API endpoint. So there are different API endpoints, guys. I want to use a API that gives me the latest price. Okay, latest price. I guess for latest, let me see which is the right API. I guess I had a API starting with this. Okay, let me see. One second. I'll just check which is the correct API. Okay, what does this do? This one returns the latest price and volume. Okay, this one would be a good one. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead. So I will use this API. Okay, the one given to me over here. Let's use it. I will just copy it and paste it in my code. So this is the API that I'll use. I will say that the symbol will be mentioned dynamically by the function. So whatever symbol I pass, same symbol will be passed over here. And the API key will also be passed dynamically. Okay, so whatever API key is passed here, same API key will be passed in the endpoint as well. All right, fine. So using key and endpoint, I'll go ahead and pass a request. Now in order to pass a request here, I will need help of request library. So let me take help of that and let me pass a request to this API endpoint. Let me pass a request and whatever is the response, I'll try to get the response as well. So let me get the response. Okay, and whatever is the response, I will return that response. Let's see. Let's see, are we able to get the latest stock price of a company? Let's suppose I want latest stock price of a company called Apple. So I'll mention the symbol for Apple. And let's see, are we able to get the latest stock price or not? Okay, so this is a simple Python function over here. There is no involvement of Gen AI up till now. This is a simple Python function. Let me go ahead and let me check whether this Python function is working or not. Is it able to give me latest stock price? I get a response code of 200. That means response was successful. So I'll do one thing from that response. I'll get my main data. So I will say you would have obtained response in JSON format. Give me the main data that is obtained. And whatever is the data, just show it to me. Let's see now. Okay, we are not able to get the latest stock price. Let's understand why. Is there some issue in my API? Alpha vintage is fine. Symbol, this is also okay. API key is also okay. Then why it would not work? This is strange. I did get a status code of 200, right? Even after getting status code of 200, what is the issue? Let's check. Is there any issue in my API? I don't think so. In my key? I don't think so. Then what would be the issue? Hmm. On top of that, I guess I'm getting a status code of 200 also. That is strange. Let's go ahead and let's correct it. Let's see. It might be an issue with this free API endpoint. Okay, otherwise in our code there is no issue. Maybe this free API endpoint is not working currently. Okay, but in our code there is no issue whatsoever. I'll just check till then. Symbol is fine. We are dynamically passing it, right? Our API key also we are dynamically passing. No issue over here whatsoever. Oh, sorry, I'm passing it dynamically, right? So I have to mention F. My mistake. I forgot to pass that keyword F. Okay, fine. Now it works. Okay. So I was passing data dynamically. That's why before uh, the API, I just need to mention that keyword F. Okay. And you can see we have got our latest data for Apple. Okay, that is the latest price. It also shows that today at which price it opened, at which price uh, was it, what is the highest trading value of it, what was the lowest trading value of it, and so on. Then the volume, okay, whatever is the volume is mentioned here. And you can see this today's, I guess this is talking about America. So I guess it's talking about the latest trading day in America. Okay, fine. Because right now in America, it would be night times. It will take a few hours for their market to open up. Okay, so this is their latest trading day, and you have data for that latest trading day. All right. So over here, this Python function is working well. Okay. What I want to do is this Python function gives the stock price, right? So I want this Python function to get integrated into my Gen AI model. Okay. So whenever the Gen AI model doesn't find answer for the latest stock data, it should go through this function. It should implement this function to get the latest stock data. Let me go ahead and let me explain to you how that can be done. Okay. So for that, first of all, what I will do is I will connect to my OpenAI model. So let me connect to it. So using the library, I will import the class for connecting to my OpenAI model. Let me connect to it. Connect to my OpenAI model here. Let me connect to my model available in Azure OpenAI. Okay, I'll try to connect to it. In order to connect to it, I need to call this class. So first I need to pass my model name, then the deployment name. So what is my model name? Let me mention it. So here my model name would be GPT-4, I believe. Let's see. Yes, GPT-4. I'll just copy it and paste it over here. Okay, so I'll say this is my model name. Similarly, I will go ahead and pass my deployment name as well. Okay, deployment name. And my deployment name is first deployment, I believe. I'll just go ahead and copy this and paste it in my code. Then the this model is available in a Azure OpenAI resource. So what is the key of that resource? I'll go ahead and mention the key. Let me get the key over here. I'll get the key. Whatever is the key, I'll go ahead and paste it in my code. Similarly, this Azure model is available inside of my OpenAI resource. So whatever is the endpoint of the OpenAI resource, I'll go ahead and pass that endpoint over here. Okay, perfect. And lastly, as you guys know, you will need to pass the API version similar to what you did earlier. Similar to what you did earlier. Fine. So with this, we'll go ahead and connect to our Azure OpenAI model. Okay, let's connect to it. Hopefully the authentication is successful and we are able to connect to our Gen AI model. Once we are able to connect to that Gen AI model, we'll try to integrate a agent. Agent is nothing but an external tool. Now remember, the code of your agent has to be written inside of a Python function. So here is a Python function. And what we'll do is we'll copy the code of that Python function over here. And then we'll declare that this code of Python function is the code for my agent. Okay. We'll declare that this code of Python function is the code of my agent. Now to declare it, I will need to perform an import over here. Let me perform that import. So I'll perform that import here. Let me import this class called function tool. With this class, what I will declare that this particular function is the code of my agent, or this particular function is the code of my tool. What is the agent? Agent is nothing but an external tool. Okay, so I'm going to declare that this particular function is the code of my agent, or this particular function is the code of my tool. Let's declare. Okay, so over here, I'll just call the class. From that class, there is a method called from defaults. And I will just declare that this function, the name of the function is get stock price. This function is the code of my agent, or this function is the code of my tool. Stock agent or stock tool. Okay. Once I've declared that this function is the code of my agent, or this function is the code of my tool, that agent or that tool, now I want to integrate into my Gen AI model. Okay. So let's integrate. In order to integrate, I will need help of a class which I will import. So let me import that class. So I will say from llama index library, import this class called function agent. Okay. This is the class that will help me to integrate the agent into my Gen AI model. So first I declared that, okay, the above code of the function is the code of my agent. Now that agent I will integrate into my Gen AI model. Let me integrate into my Gen AI model over here. So over here, I'll just try to integrate. So which agent I want to integrate? This agent, the stock agent I want to integrate. Okay. To my Gen AI model. Into which Gen AI model? Let me mention the name of that Gen AI model. Whatever is the variable in which my Gen AI model is referenced, same variable I'll pass over here. Okay, so this agent I'm integrating into my Gen AI model. Then I can pass a system message if I want. Okay, system message. I can say that you are a helpful assistant that can fetch real time stock price. That can fetch real-time stock prices. So what I'm doing, first, remember that whatever code you're writing for an agent has to be written inside of a function. That function, that code of a function, we declared it as an agent. Okay, we declared it as a code for agent. And once it was declared as an agent, that agent we then integrated into our GenAI model. Okay. That agent we integrated with our GenAI model. Okay, fine. After it's integrated, you will see how it will work. That agent is now integrated into our GenAI model. So now let's pass a request to the model. But remember, once a agent is integrated into the GenAI model using Llama Index library, in Llama Index library, there is a rule that whatever request you are passing to the GenAI model should be passed in a asynchronous manner. Okay. So here let's go ahead and let's pass it in a asynchronous manner. So I'll pass a request to the GenAI model, but I'll pass it in a asynchronous manner. So let me pass a request and I will just tell the model a question like what is Java? Let me pass a simple request first. What is Java? And that request I'm passing it in an asynchronous manner. Whatever is the response, I'll get the response and I'll convert that response to string and then print it for all the users. Fine. Now let's go ahead and let's see how it would work. Since I want to do this in a asynchronous manner, I will have to import a library for it. I'll import this library called async.io. Okay. So only with Llama index library, there is this rule. But if you create an agent with LangChain library, there is no such rule of passing request in asynchronous manner. But only in Llama index library, there is this rule that whatever request you are passing to the GenAI model, you should need to pass it in a asynchronous manner. Fine. Let's do it. Say run this main method that is declared earlier, and that's it. Let me go ahead and let me run this code. So currently I'm passing a request to the model, something like what is Java. Let's see whether it works. So remember that first the model will try to find answer of the question in its own training data. By the way, here I get a error. Let's try to understand why is that error. And that error is because of the import that I've done. I forgot to mention S at the end. Okay, this should work now. I will try to clear this out first and then run again. Okay, let me click on the run button. Let's see. So over here, I passed a request to the model. So first the model will try to find answer of that question in its own training data. If it doesn't find answer of that question in its own training data, then only it will go and take help of an agent. Okay, then only it will go and take help of an agent. So let's see what response we get. And you can see it is able to answer what is Java. But earlier to my GenAI model, when I passed the input saying, give me the stock price of Apple, right? It did not give me that. Right? Earlier, when I went to my GenAI model and I asked it, what is the stock price of Apple? It was not able to give me that. Now let me pass the same exact request. I will ask it, what is the current stock price of Apple? Let's see what it tells me. Remember that if it doesn't find answer in its training data, it will take help of an agent. But how will it know which agent to call? There might be multiple agents. So there are two things. One is the code of an agent is inside of a function, right? So at the top of the function, you need to mention a documentation. Okay, so you mention this documentation saying that this function fetches the real time, or in other words, latest stock price for a given symbol using Alpha Vintage API. Alpha Vintage API. Okay. So you need to mention this documentation. So from this documentation, it will understand that, okay, which agent to call, because there might be multiple agents. So just like you have created a function for the stock price agent, you would create a function for weather agent. How would it know which function to call? So it looks at the documentation of the function and then figures out. You would say that, Smith, what if I forgot to mention this documentation? At that time, it will look at the name of the function and then tries to figure out that, okay, which function to call. So if your documentation is not provided, then it will look at the function name and figures out which function to call. Okay, fine. So let's suppose now I'm asking it to give me the stock price of Apple. Earlier, it was not able to give to me. Now let's see whether it is able to give me the current stock price of Apple or not. Let's see. Let's check whether it's able to give the current stock price of Apple. And it says currently experiencing technical difficulties. Okay, fine. We'll try again. Maybe there's some issue with that API. No worries. We'll try again. Okay, but it should give it to us. Oh, sorry. No. I've mentioned the key, right? Okay. I thought I did mention the key. That is why it was behaving that way. Okay. Why is there an issue with this API suddenly? Up till now, it was working correctly. There is no issue. We have even integrated it properly. So it's calling that agent, but while calling it, it says it is facing issues. It says, please try again. Okay, fine. We'll try after a few minutes, not a worry. Okay. Although this API was working well up till now, but we'll try again. Hopefully, after a few minutes, it should work. Okay. But you can see it is calling, at least it is going to that agent and trying to call this API. Okay. In a few minutes, we'll see the full working. You will see that this API should work. Okay. There is no issue in our code. Maybe there's a free API, right? Sometimes it gives issues. But no worries. We'll try. Okay. After around 2 to 3 minutes, after a few minutes, let's hope that it works. If it does not, we'll find some solution for it. I would have taken help of a paid API, with paid APIs, we do not get to suffer these errors. Sometimes with these free APIs, we do get these errors. No worries. I guess Aditya has a doubt. Yes, Aditya? What doubt you have, buddy? Aditya, you had a doubt? You have raised your hand. Not imported request. Oh, is it the correct. Thanks for pointing out. I guess that is why it is causing the issue. Correct. I had not imported that request library. So how will it pass the request correctly? That's why it was not able to pass a request correctly and it gave me an issue. Fine. Let's try again. And now, as Aditya has rightly mentioned, with help of Aditya's correction, our code should work. Our code should work now. What Aditya has mentioned is right. I forgot to import request library. Okay, and you can see it is able to give me the current stock price of Apple. Okay, it says current stock price is $231.59. Okay. So you might say that, Smith, what if I have more than one agent? Fine, you can integrate it. Let me create more than one agent. Okay. Remember, the code of your agent will be written inside of a Python function. Okay. The code of your agent will be written inside of a Python function. Let's suppose I want to work with another agent that will give me real time weather data. Okay. I want to work with another agent that will give me real time weather data. So let me use a free website for that. So we have a website called weatherapi.com. Okay. It will ask me to sign in. I will sign in. And let me sign in over here. Aditya, you have raised your hand, buddy. Any other doubt, buddy?
Is there an weather API for is there an API for checking web search?
Well, there. Okay. So for example, if you're saying that we have, um, let's suppose a model like Claude, right, which is made by Anthropic company. Now,
Yes.
is there a API that will help us to do web search? None of those APIs are free. Okay, the ones that are available on the internet. So what companies usually do is there are two scenarios. Okay, one is either they create such a API. Okay, for that um, you will need companies like help of Google or some other search engines that will provide you those APIs. Okay, so yes, there are certain APIs available, but none of them are free. Okay. Or else what you can do is depending upon your scenario. For example, your GenAI model will give you real-time data, but it will only give you either stock price data or weather data. Then you can only create agents for those scenarios. So to talk about your main doubt, are there any APIs that allow you web search? Yes, there are APIs, but as per my understanding, none of those APIs are free. Okay, they are paid APIs. But yes, to answer your doubt, yes, you do have certain APIs. Okay, similarly, there are APIs that will give you latest crypto data and all of that. Okay, fine. So for example, what I will do over here is that I've already created a agent for getting me stock price. Now let me create a agent, guys, that will give me weather data. Okay, I've already created an agent that gives me stock data. Let me create an agent that gives weather data. Let's see. Am I able to log in? Let's see. Weather API. I guess I mentioned incorrect password earlier. Okay, now my password is correct. And what I'll do is I'll regenerate a key. Let's regenerate it. Let's see what happens. Am I able to get a free key? Yes, I am able to get. All right, let's proceed. I'll copy it. Remember, the code of your agent has to be written inside of a function. So here I'll create a function that gives me weather data. Okay, and depending upon the location that I mentioned, it should give me the weather related data. Let's see how it works. So first, I'll go ahead and mention the API endpoint. As far as I remember, here there's a fixed API endpoint. I'll just go ahead and mention that. So it's API dot weather API dot com slash v1 slash current dot json, current weather data. Okay. Now we'll have to pass some parameters to this API. So let me go ahead and let me pass parameters over here. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll pass the key. Okay, key of my API endpoint. Let me pass the key. Whatever is the key, I'll go ahead and pass it. Next thing is location. So whatever is the location, I'll pass that location as well. Okay, that location needs to be passed using this parameter called q. To this parameter, we'll pass the location value, whatever is that location value, whether Mumbai, Delhi, whatever it is. And then it will ask us, do you want air quality data? I will say that no, I do not want air quality data. So do not give me air quality data. Fine. Let me pass a request to this API endpoint. Let's pass a request to this API endpoint and let's see. While passing a request, we'll pass the values for parameters as well. And let's see whether we are able to get a response from the API endpoint, and whatever is the response, we'll try to return it. Okay, so I'll say give me the weather data for a location like Mumbai. Let's see. Okay, first of all, my key, I should mention it within quotes so that it gets treated as a string. And then let's proceed. Let's see, are we able to get weather data? It says max retries. Okay, I've already exceeded some number of tries, it says. Uh, okay, so I guess have I exhausted my usage of free tier with this? Is that what it is saying? I don't think there is an issue with respect to the API endpoint I've created, right? Oh, sorry, there is a issue. Okay, it should be api.weatherapi.com. Fine. Now let's see. Are we able to get weather data? I get a status code of 200 indicating that, okay, I have obtained a response. Whatever is the response, I'll convert it to JSON format so that users can see the main data that we have obtained. Let's see. So for Mumbai, it is giving me the weather data. So just like earlier, when I created an agent for getting stock price, this time I'll create an agent for getting weather data. Okay, let's create an agent for getting weather data. Fine. So remember the code of your agent should be written inside of a function. So first you need to declare that this code of your function is the code of your agent. So just like earlier, we'll go ahead and declare, okay, that this code of your agent, sorry, this code of your function is the code of your agent, is the code of your agent. Once it's declared that this code of your function is the code of your agent, that agent you will then integrate into your Gen AI model. Okay. That agent you will then integrate into your Gen AI model. Fine. And that's it. So, and now I will say that the Gen AI model will not only help me to get real time stock price, but it will also help me to get real time weather data. Okay. And depending on my input, it will know that whether to call stock agent or weather agent. The Gen AI model is smart. It will call the agent accordingly. But remember, as a helping factor, what we need to do is the code of a agent is written inside of a function. So at the top of the function, you will mention this documentation that what does this function do? So I'll say this function gives me the real-time weather data for a location. Okay, that is what it gives me. And fine, that's it. Let's go ahead. Let's run. So this time when I will ask it for weather data of Mumbai, it should able to give me that. Or weather data of Delhi, it should able to give me that. Okay, let's see. Earlier, if you observe your Gen AI model was not able to give you weather data. Okay. But now your Gen AI model will give you that weather data. Let's see. Let's run the code. Let's see whether it's able to get weather data for Mumbai or not. Okay. And we are able to get weather data. It says Delhi. Why Ontario, Canada? Okay. I wanted information about Delhi in India. Okay. Not Ontario, Canada. Yeah, I was asking for information of Delhi in India. Okay, let me pass this request again. And let's see, are we able to get information of Delhi in India or not? Okay, fine. We are able to get information about Delhi in India. Fine, so it works. All right. Now it's not necessary, guys, that always it will take help of an agent. So for example, if you ask it what is Java, for this, no agent is required. So for this, the Gen AI model will answer based on its own training data. Okay. So guys, this is how you can go ahead and integrate agents to your Gen AI model. Okay. And what is an agent? Agent is an external tool that helps your Gen AI model answer something that is not there in string data. For example, real-time data. Okay. So your agent is nothing but an external tool that helps the Gen AI model answer something that is not there in string data. For example, real-time data. And that was the agenda of today's class. Okay, wherein we learned three main points. The first point that we learned today was how to interact with a Gen AI model. I showed you two approaches for that. One is the without code approach, second is the with code approach. Then the second point was to show you how to pass your own data to the Gen AI model using a concept called RAG. And the third point was to show you how you can integrate your agents to your Gen AI model. Okay. Girish says if we have two agents, then how to communicate? The Gen AI model will handle that, buddy. Depending on your input, it will figure out which agent to call. And how does it know? Remember, the code of your agent is written inside of a function. So first is mention a documentation at the top of the function. That what does that function do? If this documentation is not provided, then the Gen AI model will figure out which function to call depending on the function name. Okay. All right. So Umesh says, what is AI agents and agentic AI? So agentic AI is the field in which you create agents. So here, this agents that we created comes under agentic AI field. All right. So it's like asking that what is batting? What is the difference between batting and cricket? No, batting comes in the field of cricket, right? So creating agents comes in the field of agentic AI. All right. Umesh says, how can we create lovable created apps? What do you mean by lovable? Can you give me a scenario? Unmute. Okay, I'll unmute you. I guess your mic is already unmuted from my end.
That's me, Smith. I'm on Mesh. He's Mesh.
Oh, okay. Umesh. Umesh. Huh. Allow mic. Okay. Yes, I've done it, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm asking when we create a apps, usually I create apps using the lovable.dev. It's a wipe code.
Mm-hmm.
So after creating it will create a Python code and these things. How we can integrate the LLMs or the models with those apps? How we can bring it in Azure environment?
So you're saying you have some models created through a different tool. Is that what you're saying?
Not a models application. App
Application you have created.
has been
Okay.
right.
Okay. And what do you want to do?
I want to integrate these LLM models created or the LLM code which we have created now
Uh-huh.
into those apps. How we can do that? Or we
So
can say on a lovable, I have created a front end where we can give the input and we how we can that one we can integrate here.
so what you have to do is, buddy, in your backend code, you just have to call your Gen AI model. Now it depends upon what application you have created. So for example, you would have created some button for an input field. Based on the input, then there will be a submit button. I don't know what application you have created, but I'm assuming something like this. So
Quiz
whatever is your
application we can
input,
say.
right? That input will then be stored inside this message, user message. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that message then you will pass to your Gen AI model. So in your backend code, this code should be written. In your backend coding file, this code should be written. Obviously, if you want to do prompt engineering or not, that's up to you. If you don't want to do, pass a simple input to the model. Okay. So this code will be the one helpful for you. So in your backend coding file, this is the code that you will integrate. So first is whatever input you are giving, it will be stored in which message, this user message field. So your front end should be created like that, that whatever message you are giving, it passes to the backend and you store it as a user message field. Here we have passed user message field in a static manner. In your case, you will pass it in a dynamic manner. Okay.
Yeah, I work on on the infrastructure side, coding side. I'm very less. So usually I use a cursor or a copilot, GitHub for a copilot to integrate the code with the apps.
Hmm.
The problem what I'm facing is the lovable which we create outside Azure environment will be having a different coding structure, and here
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
So
Okay,
it doesn't
I need
matter.
to figure it
See,
out. Okay,
your front end could be created with any language, doesn't matter. Okay. The only change you need to do is in your backend code.
okay,
Doesn't okay. So it doesn't matter whether you have created with the tool that you mentioned, Lovable or any other tool. Doesn't matter whatsoever, buddy. Okay. All you need to figure out is how to pass that input message from your front end to backend. Just figure that out. And in your backend, this code will be written, the one written by me. That's it. It's just that in my case, I have passed this user message in a static manner. In your case, it will be passed dynamically.
yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
One more question which I asked
Hmm.
previously regarding the Azure OpenAI and Azure AI Foundry. By using the models in Azure AI Foundry, I think we will be getting some free tokens. I'm not sure about it. Or
No,
if we
no,
use Azure OpenAI,
no, it's not
or
like that, buddy. So
Mhm.
it's just like this that it's like saying, see, there are two ways to interact with Azure OpenAI models, correct? What are those two ways, buddy? First is the without code approach
And with code. Yeah.
and with code. Now, where would you use the without code approach? You will be able to implement it through this portal called Foundry Portal. Then you will say how to interact with code, any coding tool. I use the coding tool called Visual Studio. You can use any coding tool that you like. Okay. Now we are talking about tokens. So irrespective of whether you're using the with code approach or without code approach, it's not like there's any limit that in Foundry portal you'll get more limit. In if you don't use Foundry portal, you get less limit. No. Regardless of which approach you're using, request is being passed to the same OpenAI model, right?
Yeah, some of the LLM models are published through the GitHub, or some of them with the AI Foundry, and by default, OpenAI is also there. So there is a difference using these LLM models through those publishers.
No, no. See, irrespective of the approach you use, okay, whether
Mhm.
you are trying to interact with LLM model through Foundry portal, okay, or through any other approach, your use case is not going to change. It's not like the model will behave differently. Okay, it's just that this Foundry portal, okay, this Foundry portal that you see, it just helps you to interact with your LLM model without writing any code. That's all, buddy. Nothing else. Apart from that, okay, this Foundry portal has more advantages as well. I'll show you. For example, if I go to Foundry portal, apart from allowing me to interact with the OpenAI model without code, it also allows me to integrate with other AI related services in Azure. So for example, there are other services like Vision service, which helps to work with images and videos. Let's suppose you want to do face recognition, object detection. For that, you will use Azure Vision service.
Right.
Okay. Similarly, you have other AI related services like speech service. Let's suppose you want to translate speech from one language to another. You can use the speech service. So AI Foundry is a portal that allows you to work with AI as well as Gen AI resources without writing any code. That's all.
Okay.
So Foundry portal is the approach wherein you can interact with the models in these resources without code. Okay, using the without code approach. That's all. But whether you use the without code approach, with code approach, irrespective of that, the capability of the model is not going to change, buddy. Okay.
Okay. With regards to this one final question,
Uh-huh.
sorry for that.
No issues.
Why on Azure, in Azure environment, we are having it is hosted by Azure AI Foundry and it is hosted by a GitHub. Those Why are those we are having
Sorry, can you repeat?
in the LLM models which we
Uh-huh.
can use in the Azure environment? Some of the LLM models are hosted by GitHub. Some of them are hosted by Azure AI.
None of
Why
the
is that?
models are hosted by GitHub, buddy.
Yeah, it is.
They no
It,
no
it
no.
is.
Show me. So they will be not hosted. Hosted is a different word, buddy. You might be seeing that okay, they are trying to interact with the LLM models and that code they have saved it on GitHub, or maybe the model itself they have saved it on GitHub. Okay,
Yeah,
through
on.
maybe a pickle file or HDF5 file or any other type of file. Okay.
Okay. I was unable to understand that. It is there in a VS Code extension is there called Azure Foundry,
Uh,
and Azure Toolkit is also there. So I'm
uh,
utilizing these two extensions to identify these LLM models.
No. So there the word hosted will not come in, buddy. So, enterprise related models are not hosted. Yes, if you want to store your models, any of your models that you have created, you want to store it inside of a file to be reused, whether it's a pickle file or something, fine. People store it on GitHub. Okay. But your enterprise environments, I- uh, people don't choose GitHub for hosting the LLM as such. They use a proper platform that has dedicated compute and everything. Okay, so something like Azure or AWS, that is the one they'll be using for hosting their LLM. They'll never be choosing GitHub for hosting their LLM. Okay,
Yeah,
hosting what is
fine.
different.
I have just shared the screenshot of that one.
Okay, let's see.
You can check it later.
Okay, let's see
Thank
in
you.
this screenshot. Okay, well, in this screenshot here you have mentioned GitHub models. 1 second, I'll just zoom in, zoom in. There they have mentioned start with free. Okay, so I guess these are the models that will help you to work with, uh, you know, uploading your applications or whatever code you have written on GitHub. That will make your task easier to work with GitHub is what I'm assuming. Okay, but these are not text-based models. Okay, these
Yeah,
are not text-based models like GPT 3.5, GPT 4. Okay,
all of them are
although
there. All of them are there.
are all of them are
OpenAI.
no, all of them are like working in the same manner as GPT 3.5, GPT 4.
Yes.
Okay, that's strange. But anyways,
Yeah, you can
uh,
explore. I think we should explore that one. It is
uh,
uh, it is a Microsoft extension provided
so
for
when
the
you
VS
say
Code.
try in playground, where does it redirect you to AI Foundry only, right?
Yes, AI Foundry only.
So
It was
that
going to fetch
means
the resource group from the AI Foundry, and it will put it here, and we can use the playground to
so that
create the
means
apps.
the
And
compute and other resources that it is using is of Azure itself, not of GitHub.
right.
Okay, anyways, but why it mentions GitHub? Through GitHub, what it is doing, I'll have to see. But internally, okay, nobody stores the model on GitHub is what I'm trying to say. Okay, the model will be stored in a platform like Azure or AWS. So when
Okay.
you say try in playground, it would redirect you to Azure platform only, this Foundry platform. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Anyways, yes, welcome, buddy. All right. All right, so these were the 3 points in today's agenda, guys. First, what we did was we tried to interact with a Gen AI model with code and without code. Second is we tried to pass our own data to the Gen AI model. Third is we tried to integrate agents into a Gen AI model. Okay, these were the three things that we wanted to do. Then Girish has a doubt. Girish says agent one extracts small details from web using grinding big search, and agent 2 will calculate the pricing based on mall location. But here, what? Agent 1 extracts small details. Okay. Agent 2 will calculate pricing based on mall location, floor, etc. But here I want to pass small details to agent 1. Then, buddy, you will have to pass the system prompt accordingly. Okay. You will have to structure your prompt accordingly. That in your prompt, you will have to mention that get this from agent 1. Okay, whatever is the value that you get from agent 1, using that value calculate so and so thing in agent 2. Okay, so using the same exact code that I have written is just that your prompt will change. Okay, now I don't know the API. You can use the API, whichever API you're using for that. Okay, I hope you have the necessary key and endpoint. The only thing that will change is your prompt. So you will have to restructure your prompt accordingly. Okay. But apart from that, if you're wondering whether we'll have to do any change in the agent related code, no change at all. Okay, it's just that this prompt in line number 16 will change accordingly. Okay, apart from that, no change whatsoever. Your agent related code will remain the same. Okay,
So
Aditya
the
says, can
content,
we? Huh. Yes. Somebody was asking.
Hey,
Okay.
Smith, Unmesh here. One
Huh.
question out of the box. So there is an MCP thing going on
Huh.
that tends to
Correct.
replace the agents, right?
Right.
So
Let's understand what is MCP. So here, can I say, Unmesh, I integrated a agent in my LLM model,
yep,
correct?
yep,
Was it my LLM application? No, LLM application means what? It's a UI
Mhm.
that helps you to integrate that helps you to work with a model, correct?
yep, correct.
So this was not an application, right? It was a simple model. And to
Yeah,
that model, I integrated an agent. But
yeah,
can I say that this cloud desktop app, can I say it's an application? This one?
yes, yes,
If to this application you want to integrate an agent, so can I say this agent is integrated here?
yes.
How would you integrate a custom agent? We do it using a
Mm,
concept called MCP, Model Context Protocol. What is it? It is just a protocol or standard that
yeah,
helps you to integrate your LLM to
mhm,
a application.
yeah,
In our lecture, we integrated I spoke the other way around. It helps to integrate a agent to your application. What we did, Unmesh, we integrated a agent to a model.
right.
But if you want to integrate an agent to an application,
Mhm,
then most of these applications right now are following these MCP protocol. By the way, this MCP protocol was made by Anthropic company.
mhm,
Anthropic company
right.
is the one that created Claude model. So this model
Mhm,
that you see over here, Claude model, it was created by Anthropic. By the way,
right.
if you integrate custom agents over here, you can go to settings. One second, help settings. One second, is there settings option? Settings, developer. And here, can you see MCP? So
Yeah,
basically, all your agents integrated will be then showed over here one by one.
yeah, right.
Okay. It's just that if you want to try it out, you will have to not use a free plan for Cloud Desktop. You will need
Mhm,
a paid plan. I guess it is called Pro or Pro Plus. I'm not too sure. Okay. But you
mhm.
will need a paid plan, not a free one. You will
Okay.
see. See,
Uh,
with free plan, MCP not available. With paid, MCP is available. That means you will be able to integrate your agent to this application also.
mhm.
Okay.
So let's say if I have my own application written
Mm,
in .NET or JavaScript, right?
mm,
And I need to use some kind of the model for interactive chat application, and that is
mm,
dependent on communicating with these agents, right?
mm,
So instead of integrating it directly, right, I wanted to
mm.
use it through the MCP, right? So is that possible?
So MCP is nothing but a protocol, buddy, that will help you to integrate your agent to application. It's nothing but a protocol. It's
Mhm.
nothing.
Got it.
Protocol means what? That you will follow these steps.
Mhm.
That means you will have a
Mhm.
config file, this file,
Yeah.
that file, right? I had implemented a MCP in one of my lectures. I'm just trying to find it. If I can show it to you. LLM.
So it's just making easy for integrating the agent. That's the thing, right?
One second. I'll just show to you. Config. Is this the one? No. Sort of. Uh, no, not this one as well. Okay. Basically, you can say that it's just the standard that is followed. For example, whenever you create your own API, and if
Mhm.
that API returns a correct response, what status code do you give?
200.
200. Why 200? Because you will say, Smith, it's a standard that is followed.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Similarly, all the LLM applications nowadays, they are
Mhm.
allowing users to integrate their own agents. And
Yeah.
for that, they are following the standard that Anthropic company set.
Mhm.
Okay, wherein there should be a configuration file. That config file you will upload to your application. You will see here there's an option to upload a config file. Can you see edit config?
Right, right. Yes.
Okay. So anyways, it's just a standard that is followed. Okay.
And this
Although I
can
will,
be the
huh.
MCP can be local and can be at the server as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It's just that whatever you will integrate, okay, once you will integrate into your LLM application, the code of your agent will be copied onto that application itself. So let's suppose your code is local, but after integrating, it will go to that application. So even if your local code vanishes, no issues. Because now that code of your agent is copied onto that application itself. What is code of our agent? Function, right?
Yeah, right.
So your function code will be copied onto the application then. So even if your local code vanishes, no issue. Okay. If I
Got it.
had a working file, I would have been able to show to you. In one of the lectures, I did implement, although I'm forgetting. But anyways, okay. You do get the idea, right? Basic idea.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Okay.
You
Fine.
do have something you shared.
Yes, I guess. Let me share with you a video.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. One MCP. Hmm. Let me search for a video that integrates MCP on Cloud desktop itself. This one. Share, copy, and paste. Okay. Girish says, do I need to create a new agent? No, Girish. The LLM model will do that for you. The Gen AI model will do that. It's just that in your prompt, you will have to structure it accordingly. Okay. Try it out. If it does not work, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll help you. Okay. First, try it out. So your code will not change. I'm submitting my code to you. This code will not change. It's just that your prompt will change accordingly. Gen AI model will handle that. Okay. So first create your agents, pass a prompt accordingly. If it doesn't work, reach out to me. I'll help you. Okay. I'll tell you which prompt to write. But first I will have to know what agent you have created. So first created your own custom agents, then reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll help you for that. You don't need to create a separate third agent. Okay. By the way, I'll give you my LinkedIn ID if anybody wants to connect. Okay.
Thanks.
Yes. Welcome. 1 second. I'll just go to my LinkedIn ID. Where's it? Here. Let's copy the profile and I'll send it in the chat. Okay, I've sent it. Fine. So with this, guys, my agenda of today's lecture is over. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any doubt, if you're facing any issues, if you're stuck at anything. I'll surely help you out when my lectures are over. If in case I'm busy doing lectures, I might not be able to see your messages, but after the lecture ends, I'll surely be able to see it. All right. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for attending. Hope you guys learned something of value. We'll meet again in some other webinar. Every week, almost Synergetics conducts webinars. So hopefully we'll meet in some other webinar in future. Thank you once again and bye everyone. Bye guys.
Hello everyone. Leaving the session, please do fill the feedback form and the record. You'll get the recording on a YouTube channel by Monday. Upload the recordings. Please do feedback form. Redeem your badges. So everyone, to please fill the feedback like the session. Redeem your learning achievement badges. Once you are done with these two things, you can end this session. So much. Back form